study conducted of about 11,000 people, 46% of Americans are not getting enough protein in their diet. There is a wonderful option called Lower Carbs. It's a protein shake. It's got 4 different types of proteins that are time released. They are pasture raised ingredients, and it tastes wonderful. You guys can opt for this wonderful protein shake at lowercarbswithnatalie.com. Muchachos y muchachas, what's going on, guys? I hope you are well. I have been wanting to comment on this whole Eliza Bleu situation, saga, scandal thing that has been unveiling itself for the past few weeks. And this is going to be a little bit different of a video. It's not going to be a deep dive of what has happened, what is alleged, what people are accusing her of. I think it's safe to say that there are a plethora of those type of videos out on YouTube. If you are curious about that, I would urge you to go search for those videos. They do include a lot of, video evidence and, concerns that don't add up with her timeline, things like this. So if you want to know more detail, I would just encourage you to go look out for those videos. I'm going to give you a quick rundown just for the sake of what I want to get into. So Eliza Bleu is a self-proclaimed human trafficking survivor, as well as a human trafficking survivor advocate, in which she surfaced on the scene back in 2021. And, she has esteemed herself to, afford big platform appearances such as Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Michael Malice, et cetera, right? Various podcasts, and ultimately Elon Musk, who you guys all know has acquired and bought Twitter. So she has since been very promoted and, has garnished a big platform on the basis of being a human trafficking survivor. Now, what has happened as of late, there have been a lot of content that has been recovered throughout the internet that conflicts. And there are a lot of discrepancies that have been found with what has been posted, what has been said in these media clips posted by her, said by her, right? These are her own vocalizations. And it is conflicting with what her story is or what her timelines have been, which have been various, right? And so what has happened is people have basically asked her in a public space, hey, can you answer up to this? Like, can you say a little bit more about this or that, right? And instead of answering up to those people, she has instead blocked them and has even weaponized her connections at Twitter. It is alleged to get them deplatformed. And so therefore, some people have lost their entire accounts, and some people are locked out of their account, right, altogether. And so this is a big problem, right? Because human trafficking advocacy has been weaponized to shun down freedom of speech, in which it's very ironic because just days before this happened, when people were asking her about particular things that she's done in her past, right? Not necessarily that it was wrong. We were just asking, not we, but people in general are asking because, they generally want to know if this is something that she willingly did or if this was something that she was coerced into doing. So instead of answering the question, she just shuns people out. Okay, so that's Eliza. That's in a nutshell. That's what it is. Once again, if you're interested in the types of content and all that, go look for videos on YouTube. There are plenty out there. What I wanted to talk about in this video is the perspective of human trafficking survivor advocacy, what this is going to do to the entire space, what's already doing, how it's affecting it, and how this is going to create downstream effects for that. And just to give you guys a little bit of my history. So not only do I just do content, right? I have been, and I'm not just saying this just to say it just because it's trendy, but I've known what human trafficking was way back before people knew. I had started the ministry outreach, volunteership, whatever you want to call it. I've been serving with ministries ever since 2013. That's how I first got into the advocacy portion of that. I started off with street ministry through a ministry called Eliza Rising in Houston, and every fourth Friday they would have ministry outreach, which they would, you know, do a lot of things on the street, boots on the ground type of stuff, dangerous type of stuff as well, right? For instance, just to give you guys some examples, number one, they would have a ministry every fourth Friday. There would be different groups. One group would stay back at the headquarters or the ministry, you know, office, and they would call listings on Backpage to try to talk to the sex workers, try to get them, you know, resources, let them know that there are resources if they ever wanted to exit the game. There was brothel outreach where, you know, groups would go to brothels to pray with the sex workers. If the brothel owner, madame, whatever, would let them in, if they weren't allowed in, they would go pray, you know, within the vicinity for the sex workers. There were some events where we would go pray on Bissonnette Street, which is like a track in Houston where there's a lot of that activity going on. And then there were the Cantina outreach. There was a Cantina outreach ministry, which I was heavily involved in. So I am a Spanish speaker. A lot of these ladies, these workers, they are brought in, they are trafficked from Latin America. A lot of them from Asia, right? This is right on the ship channel. And so what we would do as Christians is we would go, just like the brothel outreach would do, that we would go and try to, you know, gain the trust of these sex workers, pray with them, and just let them know that, hey, there's love, there's trust out there. If you ever feel like, you know, you feel this urge to leave, you know, basically the help is out there. So that's what I would do. You know, here's a little bit of a receipt of that. This is me on one outreach night back in 2015. You know, once again, I started out before that with a different ministry. There was a group that I also was part of back in 2013 called 𝘏𝘍𝑚. It was a very, very small group of girls that wanted to do some sort of like human trafficking awareness, things like that, right? Ever since then, I've done other outreaches such as Safe House, right? I've volunteered with Safe Houses, one of them being for minors, for kids, and a separate one for adults, done some mentorship, things like this, right? So there have been various capacities where I have served within the anti-trafficking or, you know, the survivor advocacy space. It hasn't just been like me just talking to survivors. There's been like some work where you don't necessarily talk to survivors, like you're raising money for a ministry, right? So there's different respects that you can serve under. And I want you guys to know that as well. Like there's different things, and they do need, a lot of these ministries, they do need men volunteers. Like more men need to volunteer. For instance, some Safe Houses, they have a lot of like hard labor work that, you know, that we don't want ladies doing. We don't want the ladies doing that. So, you know, you wouldn't necessarily be in contact with the survivors due to safety factors and due to the healing process of that survivor on campus. But perhaps if you are willing to serve in that capacity where you can, you know, you would be helping out with a Safe House with some hard labor such as that, that's also needed. So, you know, there are a lot of needs that people don't know about. Okay, so I gave you guys a big rundown of my history, right? And perhaps if you want to know more about that, just let me know. I will probably do another video on that because I'm sure that'll be a long-winded video on my advocacy and history and all of that, right? Okay, so what this is going to do from my perspective, and this is just a personal opinion, is that this is going to make it very hard for future survivors to come out, future victims to come out, survivors to have a platform, survivors to speak out in public, right? What this is going to do is it's going to harm credibility out there, right? Like a lot of people right now at this very moment are confused. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to give their donations to. They don't know what's real and what's not. And this is why this has to be said, right? Like I never would want to come out and say like, you know, this person's lying, but I have already seen the downstream effects of this, and it's not good for the anti-trafficking space because a lot of people have grown this this form of callousness towards, as human trafficking advocacy. And then that's not everybody, but for those that don't have a lot of education or critical thinking skills, they're just going to say, well, screw it all. I'm not going to help anybody because everybody's a grifter. Right? That's what this is creating. This is creating that sort of animosity towards organizations that are out there. And let me let you know that this is also going to make it hard for organizations that want to get into the space, right? Future nonprofits, for instance, right? And the thing is, like, it's hard enough to start a nonprofit. I started mine in 2021. Yes, 2021 Counter-Trafficking Alliance. We spent one entire year just researching, one entire year thinking about what we wanted to do, how we were going to do it, how we were going to achieve it. And now we're barely getting the wheels turning on what we want to do. And the reason why is because there was already a culture of accountability back in 2021 where people were like, what are you a grifter? It's like, I hadn't even gotten 2 steps in with my organization and people were already calling me a grifter. And it's like, we haven't even done anything yet. Like, right? Like, we haven't even turned the wheels yet. Like, there's a lot of work when it comes to, nonprofit organizations, advocacy, things like that, because you have to truly enter in this time and age. And this is a perfect example. You have to know what you're going to do and you have to have a plan. You have to at least strategize where you're going to begin. Right. And, and the accountability culture is good. It is good in a certain respect because there have been a lot of organizations, individuals, such as, maybe the example we're talking about today that have misappropriated funds that could be going to good use. And that's the thing that has angered me in particular, and which is why I started my own organization, because we want to see who has been misappropriating funds and where have they been going to, right? Like, we don't have enough safe houses here in 2023, right? And why is that? Why is that? There are millions of donations out there that are pouring into certain organizations and there's nothing to show for it, right? That's a big question. So this accountability culture has organically developed out of these questions, and rightfully so. But the thing that this has accelerated is this callousness towards real anti-trafficking advocates, real survivors, and real organizations out there that are doing good work. And, I wanted to talk about that too. So now people don't really know how to validate, because there are people out there who are like, I already had somebody comment on my Twitter, because I'm going to host a Twitter space in about a few minutes. I hope you're not a fake ass, that person, Eliza Bleu, like, sorry to assume, but it's like, first of all, you don't know me. You don't know the danger that I put myself into, even understand this entire space, whether it was in cantinas or on the border or, going on the track in Bissonnette and praying with the sex workers. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is dangerous. And people, like, straight up will talk to you. Like, it's an internet culture too. People will just straight up pop off and talk to you in ways that they would never talk to you in real life. Right. So there's already this air of disrespect for people who are actually in this space. And this is why I have to address this as an actual advocate that has been working in this space for the past decade. OK, so people don't know how to validate what's real, what's not. And now it's just thrown them into confusion. And I see a lot of this is causing callousness. And why this is bad is because human trafficking is a very, very serious situation. Like, I've seen people, like, I get it. Like, people want to make fun of the situation. But people are taking it to a point where, and I'm not trying to police people's freedom of speech. I'm not trying to do that, or comedy or anything like that. But, human trafficking is very serious. And when I see memes of like, is this trafficking or whatever, and it's something very minor, like, a glass of water spilled or whatever, like, people are making light of it. And it's like, it grows this callousness. Like, it doesn't seem like it's as serious as it was, prior to this. It's like they're trying to make these light jabs at the entire situation as like some sort of comedic relief. But I can already see like where this is causing that type of callousness, where people are just, there is no trust. They don't know where to trust, so they make comedy out of it. All right. So with that being said, I'm actually going to host a Twitter space. If you guys are on Twitter, go follow me at It's Natalie Denise, ITS Natalie Denise, spelt like that, Natalie Denise, ITS Natalie Denise. It's Natalie Denise. I'm just going to split it. I'm going to host a Twitter space with anti-trafficking advocates, people who actually run intake houses, people who are behavioral experts, things like this. And so I'm going to hopefully get some insight as well and just get a good conversation going about that, because we have to know what true advocacy looks like. And, you know, this has really put some harm and some weight in the space. And it's very unfortunate to see. And another thing that I wanted to just kind of cover is just some commentary that's been surfaced. Now, like I said, there's a lot of videos out there. There are a lot of videos that are circulated out there right now about Eliza Bleu. But this particular thing I felt like I needed to show you guys. Okay. So this is one of them where she's talking about consent. And this is one example where I will say, like, an anti-trafficking advocate would not be speaking like this about children. You know what I mean? Like this, and I don't like to even say like she's not, but what I'm saying is like this should never ever occur where somebody is advocating for underage consent. Listen to this.
Knowledge that there are many people who are, 13, 14, 15 that have sex with an adult and then feel as if they were taken advantage of too.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, so let's focus on the worst.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pretend like we all have our like utopia. So if I could answer this in utopia, right? In my like perfect ANCAP utopia, each community and each so it'd be each caregiver, parent, and community, including teachers, potential faith leaders, and neighbors, will decide if the child is ready to consent and look at the child's behavior. Do they have a job? How is their education going? Are they cognitively available to have sex with this individual? And then also look at the history of the individual as well. So does this individual have a history of abuse?
Yep.
And then you go from there.
Certainly acknowledge that there are many.
The community and the child. If the child so desires to have intercourse with an adult, the parents, caregivers, and anyone that's, it's just what I just said. That would be up to if the child has desire, and if the community also decides that the person that they're supposed to have intercourse with is not using force, fraud, coercion, manipulation. I
don't know if you have, please let me know in the comments if you have served in any capacity in survivor advocacy or in ministry. You let me know. But what I will say about something like this is no advocate would be talking like this. No advocate would be advocating for consent of a child to do that. Like, to me, this is asinine, guys. Like, what are you even saying right now? That, it depends on the neighbors in the community and the teachers and like for like a cult, like it depends on the cult. If it's okay for the child to consent, that's not okay. Like, I've made a video about this before. It was more through the angle of the drag story hour thing about, or sexualizing kids, things like this. And I've talked about the prefrontal cortex and how that isn't even developed. So there's no room to even sexualize them or put them in those settings, because they can't even develop the concept of answering to that, right? So this is a very asinine theory that we're hearing here. And I just wanted to leave you guys with that. So anyway, I just thought that I would give you guys my thoughts on this whole thing. I hope that you are having an open heart to the industry, the survivors. I know this is tainting a lot of the efforts being put out there, but I can assure you there are some good people out there that are not just using this as a leverage for gain, but there are people that actually want to make a difference out there. Okay. But anyway, I just thought I'd leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your love and support. I will catch you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.